Hey friends, it's Michael Kingswood, and it's story time. And yeah, man, it was a pretty interesting weekend. I hope you guys had a good one. I won't run up the road to Hollywood, where I participated in the annual Writers of the Future Awards Gala. Now I didn't win an award. I do enter that contest every quarter. Best I've done in it so far is get a silver honorable mention, which I think I've described that before. You got eight finalists for three winners and 16 semifinalists and some number of silver honorable mentions, which generally be 15 to 20 from what I've seen, and then a couple hundred honorable mentions, and then several thousand entries each quarter. So the main editor Dave Farland with his assistant Carrie English have a Herculean task every quarter to get through all the all the entries and sift through to find the good stuff. There's so many entries that Dave brought Carrie on. It used to be just Dave going through all of the entries, but there came so many. You got her. Her job is the unenviable task of going through and waiting out the stuff that is obviously will not have a chance no matter what, and so I get the impression she doesn't get to spend too much time reading the good stuff. It gets reserved for Dave, and then the panel of final judges who determine. Dave figures out the finalists for each quarter and sends the finalists to the panel of judges, and they do whatever kind of voting system they have. No idea how it works, and decide the three winners for each quarter. So three winners each quarter, 4 quarters. That's 12 writers a year win this thing, and they all get put into an anthology. Sometimes they publish a finalist who didn't win a prize because the story was that good. There's can only have three winners. So if there were four that were that awesome, then a lot of times they'll bring the fourth guy along as a published finalist. Anyway, the anthology gets published every year through Galaxy Press. Man, you can go and check out the anthology. I do. Anyway, I drove up to Hollywood. Since I'm in San Diego, it's not that far away. They invite people who submit to come to the gala. I make it a point of going every year if I can. Several years while I was in the Navy, I wasn't able to. I wasn't able to go last year because I had something else going on. But I went this year, and that was cool. I saw Carrie English, who I became friends with a few years back when I went, and Martin Shoemaker, who I also became friends with that same time. They were both there. Carrie, of course, is there because she's the assistant judge, and Martin won a while back and has been making a good career of it. So it was good to see those guys. And so the other person who I know a couple other people I know were there. Kevin J. Anderson, who is the famous writer in sci-fi circles, and I met him last fall at the WMG workshop for the business workshop I went through that I told you about. So said hi to him, and Dean, the guy who runs those workshops, along with his wife Chris. He was there because he was publishing the first Writers of the Future volume, and they hired him to write a story for this one, the 35th volume, and so he came up for that, and so I get to see him again, far more often than Anderson, but I feel a little bad. I kind of embarrassed Kevin Anderson, though. I think I walked up and was like, "Hey, Kevin, how you doing? Good to see you." And he's had some personal stuff going on. I was like, "Hey, man, how you holding up?" And he looked at me. I could tell he was doing one of those. Hey, man, how you doing? Because we met last fall, but it was the first time we met in person. We talked for a while, hung out for a bit, but that was 6 months ago. And so he's like, "Hey, man, well, it's been a while, a couple of years." I'm like, "Actually, no, it was last fall, but that's cool, man." He's like, "Oh, son of a bitch." I walked up to him later and I apologized. I was like, "Man, I think I embarrassed you. I'm sorry about that." And he chuckled and it was all good. But and I could totally relate because I'm super bad at remembering names. I can do faces and be like, "Yeah, I know that guy. Where do I know that guy from? And what's his name?" I can't. I suck at remember names. Which is why one of the reasons I like the whole sci-fi concept. And every time I'm of two minds about this one, right? The whole and we're going to be reading more of the Pericles conspiracy here in a bit, but the database implants that some of these folks have in the story, right? Where last episode when Kelsey looked back over her shoulder and did a little thingy, and her name and contact information came up, and in Jeremy's field of view, it's like, that would be awesome, because then you can just look at somebody and have your implant do a little facial recognition, and that's Bob Jones, and you know him because of this, and it's like little dialogue boxes pop up in your vision to remind you of stuff. That would be cool. At the same time, it would also be a little dystopian too, because I mean, look at how the internet has gone from being, the awesome beacon of freedom and hope and openness to being pretty much Big Brother totalitarianism writ large, right? Because you got these little things going, put their finger, getting their roots into everything, and next thing you know, somebody with a clever code can go and do that. Then you get an implant in your head that interfaces with all this thing. Oh, I don't know about that. That's probably a bad plan overall for human well-being and liberty. To say nothing about the whole, maybe that's the mark of the beast kind of thing. Yeah, everybody, you laugh, I laugh, but I haven't gone really into my personal beliefs about that sort of stuff at all, really. I'm not sure this is the venue for that, but I mean, I've read Revelation, and hey, you'll get the stamp on your hand or on your forehead as the mark of the beast. And then a few years back, I was maybe a couple of years back, it's like, hey, great, we can put our RFID chip in you, and you can pay without having to carry credit cards, and you can put it in your right hand, or you put it up in your forehead. It's, what? No, we're not doing that. So maybe something like that, this database implant might end up being the mark of the beast. So maybe we don't like that. But there are times when that would be super, super helpful. Anyway, so I could totally relate, and I do felt a little bad for embarrassing Kevin. But it was a good time. Inspiring time to see all these guys and gals winning the contest that I continually enter and haven't won yet. Emphasis on yet, hopefully. Although you can't enter anymore if you have more than 3 short stories published or any one novel published professionally. Professional being 5,000 copies sold of a novel or publication of any type, right? So 5,000 copies of publication by their standards. So I just sold my second short story professionally. The first one just got published. The second one that I sold this year to WMG is going to be probably next year. So really only 2 more, and then I'm pro'd out, which is a good way to have yourself no longer be qualified for the contest. The better way is to win it, though, right? So anyway, continuing to submit to that. In fact, I just sent my story for this quarter out yesterday, so that's good. So anyway, that was my Friday night, and Saturday and Sunday I have this my writing laptop, which is a Mac, because there's some programs that work far better for writing and publishing on Mac than other things like Vellum and a couple other things that either can't get on a PC or work better in the Mac version. And so I have a portable hard drive I've been using to make backups. And I also have a thumb drive that I back up my writing files onto and carry around with me all the time, too. But my portable hard drive died. And that annoyed me because, hard drive dies, that sucks. And then the other day, my computer glitched out and kind of crashed and came back up, and I was like, okay, this thing's about 5 years old now. It's an SSD drive, so it's, longer mean time between failures on those than a physical hard drive. But still, I was like, I need to get backing this thing up. It's been like 3-4 months since I had my backup drive. And I had been a long time thinking about getting a home drive to go on my home network and just have that be my backup thing and all this other stuff. And so I did a little research on how these NAS, the Net Accessible Storage things, work. And I went ahead and, since I had this money came in from selling the house, I went ahead and got one. And so I got myself a 8 terabyte RAID enabled NAS. So and I set it up in my place. And as I'm reading the directions, I'm realizing, hey, self, this is a no shit file. This is a no kidding file server here. I need to get a router, so I got a router. Because before I'd just been plugging in my cable modem, which is not the most secure way to do internet access, but it works. But okay, I've got my own file server. I need to do a router, and then I started thinking, hey, shipmate, you've got your audiobooks that you sell through your website, and for now, I've been, in addition to doing Audible and all those other places, I sell through my website too. And I was like, shipmate, I've been trying to figure out where to host those files, right? And I've been putting them on Dropbox for now. And if somebody buys the audiobook, I send them the Dropbox link automatically through my web store. But that's not the most secure link, and there's some other issues with that. Just I don't trust most things that are cloud because I don't control them, especially in light of how much scumbags most tech companies seem to be. And I want to control it. So, but I was looking at this thing and I was like, this is my own file server. Why don't I put my audiobook discs on this? And it turned out there's a way that I can link this up to my web store, and that would be more controllable through me if servicing the files through there. It's like, I don't get that many people going to the web store, so it's not like I've worried about 100,000 person DDoS coming to take down my freaking thing, because I'm trying to 10,000 people trying to download the audiobook at once and crashing my system. No, we're talking, for now, that's more than sufficient. So I set that up, and I'm looking at it, it's like, hey, I can set up my own personal cloud thing too, so I can access all my stuff and back up my files from all over. And I'm like, man, I should have done this years ago. This is great. And it's a cloud thing that I control. Brilliant. So that was the weekend. I also watched a little bit of the PokerStars Caribbean Adventure broadcast, and Bosch. Since the new season of Bosch is coming out soon, I went back and watched a bunch of the previous seasons just to get myself caught up. Man, this is going to be a great month for TV, because we got Bosch, get the last Game of Thrones thing coming out here, the new Cobra Kai season's coming out, and there's something else awesome coming out in April. Well, those three things alone would be awesome. The Game of Thrones season, I guess I'm a little less psyched about it than I had been, because, it's cool, but I guess the fact that Martin has never bothered to finish the books, I know he's working on them, and I know that there's all kinds of stuff going on, and I know I've got no cause to be critical, but damn it, man, the fact that the TV series is going to be done before he finishes writing the damn things. Now, if I was him, I think I'd just say, screw it, I'm not going to bother at this point. And maybe he is too. I don't know. I've never met the man, never interacted with the man. I know people who have and who are friends with him. Dean and Chris and Kevin and those guys, but it's like, jeez, it would be really hard in his place to be motivated to finish writing the damn thing when somebody else has already finished it for you. It'd be tragic if he doesn't, though. Not that his series is the best thing ever, but it is a decently good series, but it's supremely popular, though. In terms of, do you really want your literary legacy of something that's super popular as this to be like, yeah, but he never finished it, and the TV guys finished it for him? Yeah, probably not how you want your legacy to go down. So there's that pressure too. We'll see what happens. Hopefully he finishes it up and does a good job of it. But anyway, partly because of that, and partly because of, I'm not sure, I'm just not as super psyched for the Game of Thrones finale as I thought I would be. I am super psyched for Bosch and super psyched for Cobra Kai, though, so yeah. Did you guys see that trailer for the season 2 where Johnny's going and reaming Diaz and Hawk out for attacking while the back was turned and attacking the injury, and what do you guys, bunch of pussies, you don't do that here. It's like, yeah, good. Definitely liking how that's looking like it's going to go. Wow, but I've wandered on and on and on for almost 15 minutes now with this update of me. So I guess we're going to do just one chapter tonight. And, sorry. But hopefully you got something out of this discussion and go on and continue, tuning in anyway, even though it's just me rambling. But let's get on to the story again, shall we? So when last we left, Joe had the conversation with Chandini and the NSA agents and told them what was going on with Malcolm. And they're starting to investigate, try to figure out where the hell Malcolm is and what he's doing. And they brought down the wrath of editor on Jeremy Reynolds to get him to stop poking around about Pericles. So he's now off to investigate, what is that guy's name? Zukov, Security Exchange Commission's guy who's having the affair with a mob girl or something. And Darcy's pissed off. But hey, at least he got the amusement of locating the office whore who thinks trading sex for a position on story investigations is good. Of course, he's got his own, probably get in trouble for that too, because, intern. But, whatever. I'm sure it'll be fine. No problem whatsoever. So let's see what happens next, shall we? I'll talk to you on the flip side. Enjoy. The Pericles Conspiracy. Written by me. Read by me. As always, I apologize for that. Chapter 7. Discovery. Jeremy stalked into his apartment and flung his coat onto the couch, impotent frustration letting extra force to the toss. The last 2 weeks had yielded nothing. His new assignment was a complete joke, and he suspected Lou knew it. He had gone into Lou's office to present the data, certain that when he saw it, Lou would acquiesce and let him get back to the real story. Photos, documents, even the report from the private detective Jeremy hired to tail Zukov for over a week. Not a one of them showed any contact with the girl in question. Jeremy had even tracked her down, and if she was involved with the mob kingpin, that kingpin had some strange taste and contacts. He discovered her name was Chelsea Singletary. She was a hairstylist at the salon Zukov's wife went to twice a month, and apparently was friends with Mrs. Zukov because they had tea together last Wednesday. All of it pointed to a big, fat 0. There was no story there. None. But Lou merely scrolled through the pictures in his televid display, scanned the documents, and shrugged. "Keep digging," he said. Keep digging? Jeremy was digging his career straight into the crapper. What the hell was Lou up to? He had never been this obtuse before. Fuck it, Jeremy said to himself as he pulled a beer out of the refrigerator in his kitchen. Plopping down into his stuffed chair, its upholstery was faded, and the seams were fraying in numerous places, but it was comfortable as all hell. He popped open the beer and, with a wave of his hand, turned on the televid screen on his wall. One of those silly cop shows was on. Normally, Jeremy hated cop shows, but at that moment, he couldn't bring himself to care. For the next hour, he let his brain vegetate. He downed the beer, then another, then started on a third, hardly paying any attention at all to the program on the televid. He just sat. The electronic beeping of his doorbell intruded on his meditations, and he sat up in surprise. It was a Tuesday night. None of his friends typically did anything on Tuesdays. He had made no plans. Who was at his door? Setting his beer down on his end table next to the two empties, he went over to the door and touched the security panel. The video feed from the security camera outside the door sprang to life. The hallway, within camera's field of view, was empty. Was this some kind of joke? Curious, Jeremy cracked the door open, then, still seeing nothing, opened it fully. He looked both ways down the hallway, and aside from the doors of the neighboring apartments, the wall lamps and potted plants in intervals along the corridor, and a trash bin near the lift off to the left, there was nothing. He was just about to close the door again when he looked down and saw a small package lying on the floor. He picked it up and turned it over in his hands. It was a box about 10 centimeters long, 5 wide, and maybe half a centimeter deep. Jeremy gave it a shake. Something rattled around inside. He stepped back into his apartment, and the door slid shut behind him. Settling back down in his chair, he found the seal and pulled the box open. Upending it, a small black rectangle, made of metal, dropped out onto his palm, along with an earbud that was connected to the rectangle by a cord, of all things. Curious, he turned the rectangle over and saw that on the other side were written instructions. Put the earbud in your ear and press this button. This was just becoming silly. One of his friends was definitely pulling a prank on him. But what the hell, he figured he could use a little laugh. With a grin, Jeremy put the earbud into his ear and pressed the button. His smile faded as a garbled voice, clearly electronically disguised, began talking into his ear. "Mr. Reynolds, it is very likely that your apartment is bugged and you are being surveilled. Do not react to what I am about to say. When this playback is finished, the device is programmed to erase itself. All the same, I would ask that you take precautions to more thoroughly dispose of it." There was a pause, and Jeremy, for a heartbeat, thought one last time that this had to be a prank. But then the voice started up again, and he knew it was not. "You've been asking about what happened aboard the Pericles. If you wish to learn the truth, come to the Tavern on the Green at 1 o'clock. Tonight. Come alone, and wear a Yankees ball cap. You will receive additional instructions there." The voice stopped, and a few seconds later smoke began rising from the corners of the device. The voice wasn't kidding about the device erasing itself. Jeremy glanced at the chronometer on the wall. 22:30. Then he looked over to his other wall, to all his Mets paraphernalia. Why did the voice have to be a Yankees fan? Oh well, no use griping. If he hurried, he could probably find a store that sold Yankees ball caps and make it to Central Park on time for the meeting. Feeling energetic and excited for the first time in 2 weeks, Jeremy grabbed his jacket and headed out the door. The overcast sky precluded any moonlight, making Central Park especially dark, even with the snow on the ground. Jeremy, feeling like an ass in his newly acquired Yankees ball cap, crept down the path toward the Tavern on the Green. He looked around carefully as he approached the famous restaurant, but didn't see anything out of place. As he stopped in front of the tavern, he smirked. He had never actually been inside the place. Hell, he had never been this close to it, despite having lived in New York most of his life. Funny how these things work out. He clicked on his chronometer display, tucked nicely at the lower left corner of his vision by the database implant. 5 minutes after 1. Whoever he was supposed to meet was late, and it was freaking cold. Jeremy stomped his feet and crossed his arms over his chest to stay warm, his mood getting more foul by the minute. The soft clump of boots striking pavement drew Jeremy's gaze off to the left, where a shadowy figure walked down a path toward him. That must be his guy. Jeremy walked toward the person, who stopped when they were about 2 meters apart. They looked at each other for a long moment. For his part, Jeremy couldn't make that much out about his contact. He was medium height and stocky, and was dressed in a wool overcoat and fedora. Those had made a comeback in the last 5 years, but still looked exceedingly old-fashioned to Jeremy's eyes. Shadows from the hat partially concealed the man's face, but Jeremy could tell he had a mustache and a wide nose. "You left Quito too soon, Mr. Reynolds," the man said, by way of introduction. His voice was deep, and his accent had the sound of Central Asia. "Is that so?" The man nodded. "I'm sorry you were disappointed in your interview with Captain Ishikawa, but did you really expect anything different?" Jeremy frowned. How did this guy know about that? There were only a few people in La Chupacabra that night, and Jeremy was sure he would remember if any of them resembled him. The whole thing was beginning to make him feel a bit uneasy, but then again, he had been in nervous situations before. That's how you got the big story. Jeremy shrugged and assumed a carefree smile. Never leave a stone unturned if you want the story. You can never tell what's going to give you the scoop. Too true. Have you had any better luck with the others? This was becoming annoying. I have one more couple to try, the man snorted. You'll get no help from the Hirsches. They've drunk the Kool-Aid more deeply than even Captain Ishikawa has. Jeremy rather doubted that. You'll forgive me if I decide to find out for myself. As you wish. When you're ready, come back to Quito. My associate is eager to speak with you. The man turned and began to walk away. Was that it? A lot of good your associate will do. The only other person on that ship was Malcolm Ngubwe, and he's dead. The man stopped and half turned toward Jeremy. It looked like he smirked, but it was hard to tell in the half-light. Is he? Jeremy strode into Lou's office, an excited grin on his face. I got a source, Lou. Lou blinked in surprise. Not so much that he had a source, but that Jeremy seemed to have regained his normal zeal for the job. Well, there's nothing like bringing down a crooked public official to do that. Good. Zukov's clever, but he's arrogant. I'm sure that Jeremy sniffed, made a dismissive gesture. Yeah, whatever. There's nothing worth printing there. I'm talking about my story. Oh, no. Look, kid, I know the Zukov story isn't that exciting, but Jeremy leaned over, resting his hands on Lou's desk. It's not any kind of story at all, Lou, and you know it. Lou scowled and stood up. No, I don't know it. If I knew it, I wouldn't need my best reporter on it, would I? I don't care if you don't like the Zukov story. That's the story you've been assigned, and I expect you to work it. Lou realized, suddenly, that he was raising his voice. Through the windows to the main press room, he saw several sets of eyes turning toward the office, perplexed and curious. Jeremy stepped back and shook his head. I'm flying to Quito tonight. When I get back, I'll have the story of the year. He turned to leave, but stopped when Lou replied. You walk out on this story, you can forget about coming back to work here. Jeremy looked back at him, a bemused expression on his face. Are you threatening me, Lou? Shaking his head, he left the office, pushing the door shut behind him. Son of a bitch. Lou slumped into his chair and wiped his brow. He was afraid this would happen. Reynolds had always been impulsive. Muttering to himself, Lou jabbed at the desk controls, and a moment later, Julian's face appeared on the display. Sighing, Lou said, We got a problem. Okay, my man Jeremy, not taking no for an answer. Go get some. Yeah, so I'm getting a little cloak and daggery now. Meetings at midnight in Central Park with mysterious strangers. Uh-oh. I think we've got a story going. Of course we do. I wrote it. Yeah, I would love to go through a second chapter here, but like I said, I got too long-winded at the first part of this, and I want to try to keep this to a reasonable length, and so we'll stop here. Next week we'll do chapters 8 and 9 and continue on. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, as always. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/michael.kingswood. That's my Facebook page. I'm almost never there. In fact, I just added a pinned post to the top of my page. I hate Facebook. I'm never here. Come to my website and email there if you want to talk to me. It's just, that's just, you know. And consequently, one of my former guy I used to know in the Navy, he sent me a comment on Facebook. Hey man, how about something about you do this for one of your stories? I'm like, yeah, I'm planning to do it. And thanks for commenting on Facebook instead of emailing me. But oh well, it is what it is. So by all means, I'd prefer you go to michaelkingswood.com, drop me a line there. You can leave a comment on this podcast and video. That works too. We'll go from there. But yeah, let me know what you think. And come back next week and we'll do some more. Of course, you can buy the book. Please do. ssnstorytelling.com or michaelkingswood.com. Click on the bookstore links and you can get print or ebook from me. The audiobook I have not created yet because it costs for this book would probably be 14 hours or so, 15 hours of reading, which you do that, figure $150 to $200 an hour. You can do the math on that. I haven't had, $2 to $3 grand to spend on it yet. And hey, what the heck? I'm taking pains to record this cleanly. So in the next few months when I'm done with this, that'll be the audiobook. Yay! Nice and easy. Because I'm a cheapo. But, if you guys go and buy a whole bunch of copies of the book so I get a bunch of money coming in between now and then, I could get a pro read it. You can also get the book on Amazon, Kobo, Apple iBooks, everywhere else on the planet. And go from there. If you don't want to buy the book, that's fine. Come back, subscribe to the channel, come back and we'll read some more next time. If you don't want to buy the book, but you do like what I'm doing and want to support it financially, since it does take time and money, and I'm trying to be a pro here, and my time is money, and so I should get paid for it, go by the website. You can click on the supporting patronage link and become a member of my website, where you can do basically PayPal subscription stuff to become a member. Throw $1 or $2 a month at me, and I'll throw a short story or two at you each month, in addition to this podcast stuff. And more of that, you get more cash each month, you get more in return. That's how it works. That will be helpful for paying for the podcasting. Hosting fees aren't much, but it does take time to do all this. Time that I could be spending writing or beating the children up, or I don't really beat the children, but you know what I mean. Spending time with the kids or working out or whatever. So yeah, not an unreasonable thing to ask for, I think. Anyways, you can go do that. But if you really don't want to do that and you don't want to give me any love at all, that's fine. I love you anyway, and you can still come back and listen to the story as long as you know, tell your friends about it. And yeah, so that's about it. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope my rambling at the beginning didn't put you off too much. And come back next week. We'll go through the next couple chapters. Until then, don't do anything I wouldn't do.